Chenyu Vale, the beautiful lush rainforesty area in Liyue that borders Fontaine and Mount Yaojun. It is home to many adepti and was once the home and ruled by a great god who I'm 99% sure was Orobashi. There's some major details but also some very subtle little details as well that kind of hint towards this already, and was home to a lot of different creatures. In this video, we're going to be breaking down the lore of Chenyu Vale, the Adepti there, what happened many years ago during the Archon War, and what happened in the current game story, as well as who might have been the potential god that we heard about in that story. So to start and predate even the Archon War, that was roughly 2,000 years ago, Chenyu Vale was under the dominion of Adepti, and the most well-known of them was the Herblord, who took the form of a young lady. Unlike the rest of Liyue, Chenyu Vale is very lush and has lots of water, moisture, humidity, and has a river flowing right through it. This could be because of its location bordering Fontaine. But the climate all around was much more humid and damp compared to the rest of Liyue, as you can see. And like the rest of Teyvat, we did not have the 7 nations established yet, so gods held dominion over certain plots of land, all across Teyvat. Some stronger than others, and some had followers, much like Morax, who had his Adeptile friends, and people who followed and supported him. Chenyu Vale also had a god that ruled over it, who was left unnamed, but both the Herblord and Fujin, who we met in the story quest, who took the form of a young lady but also had the form of a carp, followed this unnamed god. The Archon War took place roughly 2,000 years ago, but this jade slab predates even that. Nobody, even the ancient Adepti, know of its origin, so I would assume that it was probably crafted there under the primordial one over 6,000 years ago, long before that war in the heavens took place and the usurper came. But in today's age in Genshin, it is only legend on its true origin. Nobody knows. The Herblord would split this jade into several pieces and hide them in various places, underwater, in the mountains, and in the shrines. It is believed that they carry the pact that the ancient peoples made with the deity, or maybe Celestia. After the Archon War and Rex Lapis was victorious, the nation of Liyue was complete and part of the 7 nations. After this conflict, the Herblord fighting the god she once followed would be in a weakened, shrunken state, like what happens in most gods in Genshin when they exert too much energy or power. Once in the form of a young lady, would last have a form of a white, shrunken snake, and was said to have moved and taken residency in Liyue Harbor, which heavily implies that Changsheng, the snake with Baiju, is in fact the Herblord of old. Both Changsheng and the Herblord are from Chenyu Vale, so this links these two together to be the same character. Being that both are white snakes that practice medicines and herbs and were originally located from Chenyu Vale, and being that the Herblord and Fujin herself states the Herblord was now relocated in Liyue Harbor and found a new home there. So Changsheng is very likely the shrunken down version of the Herblord. Further evidence to this is that Changsheng has a female voice, and it's becoming quite popular in Genshin where Adepti take different forms, shapes, and blend in with society, taking residency, living amongst people in Liyue Harbor. But unlike her friend Fujin, the Carp Adepti would be trapped at Carp's Rest for thousands of years. As the years would go by, Luingwen began to miss her old friend Fujin. Knowing that she could still be alive in a weakened state, she planned to bring her back, and she thought by disrupting the spirit veins, causing Chenyu Vale to return to nature, this help her friend come back, letting nature seize control over the land once more. There would be some miscommunication as well, as Fujin is somewhat embarrassed of her carp form, preferring to take the form of a young woman, until eventually the traveler would step foot into Chenyu Vale and encounter Fujin, who explains the soil and waters of the Vale are on the decline, putting everyone in danger. The traveler would agree to help, helping Fujin regain her strength. The traveler would then help Fujin perform the Rain Jade Rite to restore the land, and she loans them some of her power so they could traverse the land. During the events of the World Quest, Fujin would be shocked to discover that one of the 3 Adepti that helped during the Archon War, Luingwen, was the one responsible for damaging the environment. Once she was brought back to her senses, Fujin performed the rite, restoring the soil and water brought about by the tampering of the spirit lines. Exerting the last bit of her energy would cause her to revert back into her original carp form. And that would be the end of the story quest. Chenyu Vale would be back to normal and saved, and the misunderstanding between two old Adepti friends would be resolved. That covers all that we know, but what about the things that are unanswered, like this unnamed god and the ancient history of Chenyu Vale? Because you can see it is depicted that there were some ancient civilizations here as well, and Chenyu Vale seems to be located almost directly under Celestia. Pretty interesting if you ask me. It is obviously heavily suggested that there were some ancient peoples that worship Celestia, and I do believe that's where the rain jade contraptions and their technology came from, because it predates any knowledge that we have today, even the old Adepti. And Changsheng being confirmed from Chenyu Vale, and being associated with herbs and medicine in Liyue Harbor with Baiju, pretty well almost confirms that he was the Herblord Adepti at one time, but is now in a shrunken, weakened state like many gods that we see today. What's interesting is he is a white snake from Chenyu Vale, and I wonder if he once followed an unnamed god that was also a white snake and a great serpent god, Orobashi. There is many details that kind of point towards this. What we know for sure about Orobashi was that he was born sometime before the Archon War and was said to have challenged a golden god and lost. A golden god sounds exactly like Rex Lapis prior to being a Geo Archon. He's literally golden in color, he was a god that can control Geo, and he's the god of Mora. Sounds perfect to me. And after we know that his Adeptile followers defected, after he was going to flood the entirety of Chenyu Vale to possibly win, he fled to Inazuma region and to the Dark Sea. Being that it's pretty well mostly water up until this point, it makes sense for a giant serpent-like god. He would then leave Teyvat into the Dark Sea into Enkanomiya. In Enkanomiya, he remained confined in a cavern for untold ages until a child of Enkanomiya, who was exploring beyond the region's borders, would stumble upon him and ask for his aid and help. Orobashi then would abolish Enkanomiya and its son children, a system where they raised children to be the next ruler of Enkanomiya, controlled by a corrupt government who would slaughter this child before it ever reached adulthood. And Orobashi would be the new deity, along with an imaginary serpent Ouroboros in Enkanomiya. Eventually, Orobashi would stumble upon a book before Sun and Moon, reading about the secrets of Celestia, the ancient world and peoples, the primordial one, the dragon sovereigns, and a lot of hidden secrets and forbidden knowledge. This would bring a dark prophecy and curse both him and the people of Enkanomiya to certain death. Orobashi would then prepare the people of Enkanomiya to rejoin the surface world and created Watatsumi Island. Knowing full well that his fate along with the people of Watatsumi were sealed in being their deity, and honestly probably wanting to redeem himself for the heinous acts he was about to commit in Chenyu Vale, decided to shoulder the entire burden himself, attacked Inazuma, Yashiori Island, and was slain by the Raiden Shogun. And to this day, his remains are still there, corrupting the land and making it a no man's land between Inazuma and Watatsumi. Now, besides him being a white snake from Chenyu Vale, what other evidence do we have that links Orobashi being the unnamed god in Chenyu Vale? Well, for starters, I always thought it was funny trying to pinpoint where he came from, because Orobashi was not from Inazuma, he fled there, and taking a path of water makes the most sense if you're trying to flee an Archon war. Chenyu Vale is actually the perfect location for a serpent-like god or deity. Besides the fact that we already have white snake creatures from there, snakes thrive in high humidity, and being a humid jungle-like atmosphere there, Chenyu Vale with its giant river kind of acts as a great place for Orobashi and a serpent-like god. I don't think he would be from Natlan, the desert of Sumeru, possibly the rainforest region of Sumeru, but there's not enough water, and I really didn't think he'd be from Shesnaya. So really being from Fontaine or Chenyu Vale really is the perfect location for somebody like Orobashi to originate from. Obviously, he probably has smaller and human-type forms, but this just makes the most sense. Another subtle detail is the fact that he taught the people of Watatsumi smelting and farming. Smelting being the more interesting one. Being somebody that actually works at a smelter myself, a nickel smelter, it is the breakdown and process of precious metals. And guess what is in Liyue? these jade stones and precious metals. It's kind of funny to me that Orobashi would be an expert at teaching smelting, but if he was from Liyue, hence Chenyu Vale, that actually makes perfect sense. Now I know that's not the only location in Teyvat that has precious stones, but Liyue is the capital of precious stones and minerals. Also, he'd have to be from somewhere that could teach farming, and being that Chenyu Vale has both lots of minerals and also has a lush, fertile environment, it makes sense that he'd know both of these skills from his homeland. And another interesting description is the sacrificial jade states, the ancient god who once ruled Chenyu Vale had perished in a foreign land. Orobashi literally died in Inazuma, a foreign land. And honestly, I can't think of a better location for Orobashi to originate from. And I honestly believe Orobashi to originally be an Adeptus. I think Orobashi was an Adeptus, and Adepti are known to be gods, in a sense, and when the Archon War began, tried to defeat Rex Lapis, but like so many other gods, Rex Lapis was victorious, and it is not stated that he was killed, so I think in a last-ditch effort he tried to flood the place but was stopped by his followers, his other fellow Adepti, and ultimately fled to avoid being killed. And, ruling over the people of Enkanomiya, he was able to redeem himself for almost flooding Chenyu Vale and killing everyone who lived under him by shouldering the burden of forbidden knowledge before Sun and Moon, and ultimately was slain by the Shogun to protect the people of Watatsumi Island. All in all, Chenyu Vale is a beautiful location, and its lore is very interesting, and I do think Orobashi fits right in there along with Chung Shung. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Orobashi was the original unnamed god before the Archon War started? Or do you think it's someone we just haven't met yet? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I do hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts on Chenyu Vale, how you're enjoying it so far. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. And as always, we will see you all in the next one. Later.